Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today's video is about the digestive system and metabolism. Did you know that if we were to string out our whole digestive system in a straight line, from the mouth to the anus it would be about 30 feet long? This is due to the complex folding and winding of our intestines. So what is the job of the digestive system? Pause the video and brainstorm some ideas. The digestive system is responsible for breaking down the food we eat into nutrients required for our metabolism. It is also responsible for getting rid of waste and materials that we cannot use. So what is metabolism? Metabolism is the body's process of converting food into energy, usually in the form of a molecule called ATP. The digestive system, also known as the alimentary tract, is made up of many interconnected organs that run from the mouth to the anus. So let's start at the mouth and work our way through like a piece of food. The mouth is the first point of contact when food enters our body. Its job is to ingest material, break down food mechanically through mastication, which is a fancy word for chewing, mix food with saliva for chemical breakdown, and initiate swallowing. The mouth includes the lips, cheeks, palate, tongue, teeth, uvula, and the salivary glands. In the mouth, food is broken down into smaller pieces with the teeth, then saliva is produced to moisten and break down carbohydrates with a type of protein called an enzyme. This particular enzyme is called salivary amylase. This mixture of food and saliva is called the bolus, which is then swallowed. Swallowing triggers a small, flap-like structure called the epiglottis to close over the trachea, preventing entrance into the lungs. Once swallowed, the bolus enters the pharynx and into the esophagus. The esophagus is a long muscular tube. It uses a coordinated, wave-like movement called peristalsis to push the bolus towards the stomach. When the bolus gets to the bottom of the esophagus, it places pressure on the gastroesophageal sphincter, which then relaxes to allow entrance into the stomach. So what is the job of the stomach? The stomach is where the real digestion begins. It's composed of a mucosal layer surrounded by a smooth muscle wall. Together these layers play a role in churning of food into a fluid mixture called chyme. The mucosal layer of the stomach is an epithelial tissue responsible for gastric secretions such as acid. In microscopic pits of the stomach, specialized cells in small glands secrete chemicals and proteins to break down food into smaller, more manageable molecules. The secretion by these special cells is regulated by a hormone called gastrin. The muscular layer then moves the food around with the gastric juices to form the mixture of chyme. Chyme then travels down through the pyloric sphincter and into the beginning of the small intestine, called the duodenum. The small intestine is divided into three parts. First the duodenum, then the jejunum, and last the ileum, before reaching the large intestine. As material travels through the small intestine, nutrients are absorbed through the finger-like extensions lining its walls, called microvilli. The microvilli cover the inner walls, forming what is called the brush border, where epithelial cells are key for nutrient absorption. Initially, this material coming from the stomach is very acidic and not completely digested. Accessory organs called the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas are responsible for releasing digestive enzymes and chemicals like bile through large ducts directly into the duodenum of the small intestine for further digestion and to neutralize the acidity. Most of the nutrient absorption of the digestive system occurs as material flows through the small intestine. These nutrients, such as glucose, are picked up by the blood to be transported throughout the body. Later in the video, we will discuss another function of the pancreas for regulating blood glucose levels. So if the small intestine is the nutrient absorber, what is the job of the large intestine? The large intestine is responsible for absorption of water and electrolytes, and excretion of the leftover waste material, which is the feces. There are three parts to the large intestine, the first of which is the ascending colon on the right side of the body, where the ileum of the small intestine connects. The next part is the transverse colon, which travels horizontally across the body to the descending colon on the left side. Finally, feces, which is the leftover waste material, are expelled through the rectum and the anal canal. This is the whole path of food through the digestive system. But wait, there's more. As I mentioned earlier, what happens to glucose when it enters the blood after being absorbed in the small intestine? Glucose is a carbohydrate used by different tissues to create energy in the form of ATP. This happens through a series of chemical reactions breaking down glucose, which generally makes up our metabolism. This is where the pancreas and liver play a huge role in regulating your blood glucose levels. The liver is responsible for breakdown and storage of glucose molecules. When glucose is stored away by the liver, it is bundled together in larger molecules called glycogen through a process called glycogenesis. Then, when glucose is needed again, the glycogen is broken down to circulate back into the blood through a process called glycogenolysis. But what regulates this is the pancreas. The pancreas is a special organ because it is both exocrine and endocrine. Exocrine means that chemicals are released through ducts, such as when we were talking about the release of digestive enzymes into the duodenum. Endocrine means that hormones are secreted directly into the blood through ductless cells. The pancreas releases two very important hormones for regulating blood glucose levels. Alpha cells in the pancreas secrete a hormone called glucagon, and beta cells secrete a hormone called insulin. These two hormones have opposite responses. Insulin is secreted when blood glucose levels are high, such as when someone has just had a meal. This tells the liver to promote glycogenesis and store the glucose that's in the blood away for later. Glucagon is secreted when blood glucose levels are low, such as when we are sleeping or haven't had a meal in a few hours. This tells the liver to promote glycogenolysis and break down glycogen to get more glucose into the blood. This is ultimately how our metabolism is regulated, as glucose is the key molecule used for the production of ATP. So that is the end of the digestive system, and a touch on metabolism. So let's do some quick review. A few practice questions will pop up on the screen, and I encourage you to pause the video and give each a try. If you get stuck, rewind the video and refresh your mind. Lastly, we have a tricky question of the day. Scenario: Katie has a deficiency in her pancreatic beta cells, where they are not producing an adequate amount of insulin. What would be a possible physiological outcome as a result? If you said something like Katie would have elevated blood glucose levels, that's correct. If there's a lack of insulin production, then when food is ingested and glucose is absorbed into the blood at the small intestines, then there is no signal to the liver to store the glucose away as glycogen. Therefore, more glucose is left in the blood than usual. And that is it, everyone. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you could please leave a comment on the video with some feedback, that would be greatly appreciated so I can improve on the next ones. Thank you.